Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 6 of the Substitute podcast. This week we are joined by John from Black Label Grading. Do you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone.
So I'm going to start with how I start most episodes, which is to ask you, what's the first collectible item? It can be Pokemon or any sports or anything like that that you remember buying with your own money.
Yeah, the tricky one with the my own money part. I was trying to think that far back. I've also got Vicky's answer, which I'll start with. She used to collect these little fairy ornaments that used to come with a certificate label. She'd got them somewhere in her mother's house. She says to me they're extremely valuable. I don't agree. I don't believe so. But that's her collection. She was unfortunately not a Pokemon girl like the rest of us. Um, I I've got the same old story that most collectors of my sort of age have. That when I was in primary school in sort of 1998, when Pokemon was just coming up, my I used to get collected from school by my amazing mum, who used to out fail pick me up every day of the week with about 10 to 20 booster packs of base set at the time, just so I could be the top dog at school. Really, I was a very spoiled child. And like, she used to take me everywhere. She used to take me to like Pokemon trading clubs at Phoenix in my local town at the time. Buy me all sort of weird Japanese cards that none of my friends ever had the privilege of owning. Um, but I was very lucky in that sense. And I was a very weird child that decided to collect, actually store them in binders and never do anything with them. So managed to keep a lot of it quite good nick. But with my own money, I think it's got to be from a time of my life where I'm not proud of, but I used to be a big old World of Warcraft player back when it first came out in around 2000 odd six, I think. And I wanted every piece of World of Warcraft I could get, so I actually collected all of the World of Warcraft trading cards at the time, purely for the in-game benefits. You could get like little cosmetic items that you could use in game through the trading cards. So yeah, that's the earliest thing I can remember buying with my own actual money with my first job. Um, as and it was very geeky, I must admit.
I mean, we're not gonna judge you for being geeky because it's a predominantly Pokemon channel, so
No,
we're
well,
all,
the amount of hours I sunk into World of Warcraft would make even the geekiest collector flinch, I think. I think we're talking over a year worth of hours in that game. But anyway, I wouldn't change it for the world.
well. That's all that matters, isn't it? As long as you had fun.
Hmm.
So obviously you, like I said, you run Black Label Grading with your wife. So if you could just give us like a brief explanation of just kind of what it is that you do, if anyone's not heard of you before.
Yeah, sure. So we're Black Label Grading. We are a an official intermediary business for Beckett Grading services, which we're basically anybody that wants to get their cards, whether that be Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever, or sports cards graded through Beckett in the UK or EU, are able to send their cards to us, and we basically take care of the rest. We get it all graded by Beckett and returned to our customers. Yeah, that's pretty much what we do, and have a great time doing it as well.
How long have you been running Black Label Grading?
We're not that long actually. We incorporated the business in October 2020, and we launched in December, and we had our first submission in January this year. So we're very new business in compared to um, companies similar to ours.
So when you both started it, was did you get submissions right away? Was it accepted like relatively quickly, or were people slightly skeptical because you were a new company offering the service?
Yeah, no, we were we were we did kind of anticipate we'd have to earn the trust of the community first, and the way we approached the way we approached that at that time was just to be completely transparent and actually be open, like just be open with with who we are, why we're doing it. But there were a lot of people, quite rightly, who didn't trust us because, as we all know, the the market is swamped with with scammers, unfortunately, and it was people at one point believed that we were trying to do the same. But but saying that, that small group of people that didn't believe us, there is a huge amount of people that took a punt and trusted us and sent their cards to us for grading. And just to give you an idea, when we set out to start the business, we were when we were writing our perceived forecasts and what we were hoping to do in our first sort of 6 months, we were hoping to get about 50 to 100 cards in our first month, and maybe get as high as 200 cards a month by sort of month 6. In our first month, amazingly, we received about 1,000 cards from I think about 180 customers in total, which was mind-boggling at the time, and just we were just so happy. I think if you were to look back at our social posts, the amount of thanks I was giving out just kind of shows the support. It was amazing.
So am I right in thinking that you are the only official UK Beckett dealer?
Yeah, yeah. I want to make just kind of something very clear, which is everybody knows that PSA have these official PSA partners. Like Grader Gem and Ludkins are the only two in the UK, I believe that, or there might be a third. I'm not sure. But Beckett don't have anything like that. They've they've never engaged on a like a really formal way with having official stamped approved kind of partners with their business, which was kind of the big stumbling block, which has involved months and months and months of negotiating with Beckett to come to sort of an agreement. So we have to be clear that we are independent. We're not part of Beckett, and we're not a partner of Beckett. What we are is an approved intermediary, which means that they know us very well. We have agreed on how we submit. We have agreed certain rates, certain other elements that make our business a bit more viable than sending direct, which is kind of the essence of what our business is. And then so and that's pretty much where we're at the moment. So we're not an official partnered Beckett company. We are independent. But we are an approved Beckett intermediary, which is just very hard, very difficult with the wording. I'm hoping one day maybe they're going to see sense and give us a little badge, but not today, unfortunately.
So you said that you've always been very open about why you started it, and that, like, I'm guessing that's because you saw a gap in the ability to submit to Beckett. Is that fair to say that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, pretty much. Yeah. So I've been grading with Beckett for quite a while. I also grade with PSA, but I was one of those people in the community, kind of just every now and then asking the question, like, are there any Beckett intermediaries? And always getting met with just resounding no's. And I never understood why. And it took discussions with Vicky. It took lockdown to give us a little push to investigate, and then it took those months of negotiating with Beckett to see if it was a feasible idea. And yeah, here we are today. So clearly everything worked out, but it definitely was a gap in the market, and I just decided if no one else is going to do it, it might as well be me.
I think that's lockdown has obviously not been great for pretty much everyone, but I think in
No.
a lot of ways. So I was talking to David from Grade Shield. It would have been out 2 weeks before this, or a week or so. I recorded it as we're talking, and he said the same thing. It's like, he saw a gap in the market during lockdown, and because it was lockdown, and he didn't have anything else really to do with his spare time, he just went for it. So I think in a lot of cases, lockdown has been good for people to kind of pursue other things. And
Yeah,
speaking of other things to pursue during lockdown, obviously collectibles have gone absolutely insane over the last year.
yeah.
I think that's not an exaggeration to say that it's kind of mad.
No, if there was a step above insane, I think that would be the appropriate word.
Yeah.
It is a crazy world to be in right now.
So when you obviously what you said when you started the business, you didn't expect as many submissions as you've got.
Mm.
Were you also Did you also think that at the start I could be totally wrong, obviously. Correct me if I am, but you thought you maybe are you getting more like high end cards than you thought you'd be, or is it about what you thought?
Um, honestly, I can't. I think we set up everything when we started with a perceived value per card of about 100. So on based on that logic, we never expected to receive any of the hard hitters. Um, I mean, the most valuable cards we kind of receive are we've had a few we've had a couple of Charizard first editions sent through us. No, but none of uh, I think none in the English language, unfortunately. But still, as we all know, the I think the French and Spanish ones still sell for yeah the tens and thousands of pounds in a high enough grade. So with that, but um, but I think now that we're a bit more established and um people aren't just testing the water with us, the majority of the cards we are getting through are very minty cards, um, and um, and they're always worth a few quid. They're not yeah they're not just being sent to just any old cards being sent to us. And I think that has in large part something to do with the fact that the majority of our customers probably are chasing a Beckett 10, um, or a black label, God forbid, if they can find the luck to get one. And but yeah, the majority are probably the higher end cards at the moment, I expect.
Do you think that's probably to do with the obviously Beckett increased their prices in line with all pretty much everyone else did, every grading company did. Do you think that's affected your sort of the fact that you get the higher cards now just because it's more expensive to
Yeah,
submit?
yeah, the price. Yeah, that wasn't a welcome price hike. In fact, the call that we had from Beckett was about that was quite troubling. Um, it was literally just on a I think it was like a Thursday afternoon or something. We just finished our submission work for that particular month, and getting a random "I need to speak to you urgently" call from our guy at Beckett was was quite worrying. Um, they were brilliant though. They gave us so much notice. The customers of ours that are around at that time will remember that we immediately changed our next deadline. We brought it forward by about 2 or 3 weeks, so that people would have a chance to submit at the irregular prices, and that would never have happened had Beckett not been nice enough to give us the 2 week heads up. Um, but yeah, the prices have definitely impacted the volume of cards that we're receiving. So it's I think we've received about 50% less of of the cards each month compared to pre price hike with Beckett.
Yeah, it's quite a considerable difference. Um,
Yeah, but we had to Beckett had to do it. If our figures are anything to go by, then it potentially that means the Beckett are receiving 50% less. Although I don't believe that for a second. um, but they had to do something to try and get on top of it, or at least stall the ever increasing turnaround times.
yeah, I mean, turnaround times obviously universally across the board have gone up because of just pure volume. Um, do you think do you think this obviously you've said you've received less and that you're not sure, but do you think the turnaround times will? I know I said I wouldn't talk about it, but more generally, do you reckon like for all companies they'll go down over the next sort of like 6 to 12 months, or do you think we'll stay at this level for a little while?
The answer everybody wants to hear from us is probably yes, that they're going to come down. But in all honesty, they've gone up again, um, with Beckett, and I expect they're probably still going to be on the up for a few more months. It's hard for me to believe right now that something drastic is gonna happen to the point where Beckett are able to start reducing the backlog, so that the turnaround times come down rather than keep going up. Um, I think that's going to say I can only speak for Beckett, but I think that's probably the same for the other big players as well. including PSA, despite closing their doors in July. Interestingly, Beckett did close their doors last year, sort of towards the end of 2020, and they closed their doors for 6 weeks, and they didn't allow any submissions. And when they did that, everybody either just kept submitting, and what Beckett did in that case, in that situation, was they didn't reject the delivery because they didn't want to be responsible for any lost packages in that sense. And so and what the other so there was a big group of people that kept submitting that way, and they were just kind of being stored. And then what the majority of the customers did were just hold on to their submissions until they open their doors again. So then what Beckett said was they received twice as many cards than they would have received over those 6 weeks within 1 week of reopening their doors. So if we translate that to what's happening, what PSA have done, it would lead you to believe that the amount of cards that PSA are going to receive when they open their doors again is just might be an absolute avalanche of cards. And we've all seen it. I see a lot of collectors on Instagram who share images of their PSA ready stacks of cards, and they're in the hundreds. We're talking like 500 to 1,000 cards posts, and it's ready for PSA to open again. And that's why Beckett are a little bit hesitant to close their doors again. They're looking at other means of potentially stemming the flow, shall we say?
Yeah, because it just makes total sense, right? When any company closes for a period of time and then reopens, they get everyone's cards, because people don't seem to be slowing down on buying singles and opening. So therefore,
No,
obviously, you like you said, your pile just builds up, and next thing you know, you've got hundreds of cards that you want to submit and nowhere to submit them to until they open. Yeah, so
exactly. I mean, there's argument to be said that we're probably getting a fair few of them, but honestly, I just imagine what that day is going to be like within a week of PSA opening. They may have inputted everything that was in the backlog, and they'll be in a good place. But I expect that just they're going to still be in a similar difficult position, just like Beckett, even when their doors open again.
I can I can see like a foreseeable future where if they can't find another way of of basically making things faster, that they will reopen, take 3 months worth of cards in 3 weeks, and then close again.
Yeah, that's the same that's the same problem, isn't it?
Yes.
They'll still be receiving the same amount of cards. They'll just be receiving them in massive drop loads. I
And
think I don't know for certain. Beckett obviously don't share with us any of their real plans until they're actually announced. But if you're asking me what Beckett might do, if it keeps getting out of hand, I think personally, I think Beckett will do something like remove their economy service temporarily, and just offer their standard express and premium. Um, that way, yeah, they're slowly getting towards the point where only people are going to submit the cards that are worth submitting. Um, and I think if that doesn't work, then what they'll do is they will close the doors to their standard service and see if that works. We all want to. I personally just don't want them to increase their prices again. But who knows? They may have to do that as well, at least temporarily.
I can't remember who it was that made the video, but there was a video I saw a month or so ago, and they were talking about the fact that before the whole boom and back in 2018, before, grading things was such a premium service that most people wouldn't bother extending themselves to do it, and people realized en masse last year that if you grade a card for however much it costs, maybe £10 to £15, you could increase the value massively. So we need to kind of like shift the status quo back to being like grading is a thing that you reserve for like your higher end cards, without you know therefore making it less, there's less submissions. And it's just a difficult situation, I think, because obviously if you do that, then you're kind of denying grading for a lot of people, um, which is where I guess it comes into like the UK grading companies and the European grading companies that offer a different, a faster service for a lower fee. And I won't get you into talking about the UK grading companies because everyone's talked enough about it. But generally as a whole, do you think they offer something that's valuable to a customer?
Um, I don't mind the UK grading companies. Some of them I think have gone the right way about it. Others, with not naming any companies, others I feel like have just taken the opportunity um, to in a market like ours. Um, I think there is I think there is a place for them, and I think they do offer some value. It's I don't know which one it was, but there was one that I really liked that were trying to be different and offering customizable labels. Um, I thought that was really clever. But what grinds my gears a little bit is where they were just flat copying PSA, Beckett, or CGC, or any of the bigger ones, or any of the big ones, with the exact same slab, a label with the same um, sort of format as PSA or Beckett, and yeah, I just feel like in an industry like ours, you need to set yourself apart, and I haven't seen anybody come into the market and really try and be different and add something unique. Um, yeah, it's just been a few too many copycats right now for me personally. But for if people are just wanting to protect their cards and they trust the company that they're submitting to, then I think the UK companies, there is a place for them there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel Beckett, PSA, and CGC to a certain extent will always be the value adding more like premium services, and I don't think the UK companies will. I won't say they won't ever have that, but obviously it takes a long time to build up to that level because PSA and Beckett, especially, the reason that they add value to cards by grading them is their reputation and the pure volume that they've graded. Like if you get a Beckett card back, you trust that it's been graded by professionals to a high standard and it's a fair appraisal and it deserves the grade that it got, and that's why it has the added value.
Hmm.
Whereas there's a lot of, especially with some of the UK companies, there's a lot of like variability and not necessarily their grading, just what people actually think about them, and you need to get this like level of respect for the company just to allow the value to be added. And I think that it will come with time if they keep doing good things. But
Yeah,
at the moment,
one will come out on top eventually. One has to. It's just if I'm not a betting man, so I wouldn't put my money on any of them just yet. But inevitably one of them will be the UK main provider of grading. I'm excited to see it. I really just think it will be when one of them comes out and does something different.
and I was just kind of sprung this on you, but is there anything that a grading service would offer that you would particularly like? Is
You
there
have just
any
sprung that on me.
anything like,
Um,
and you said about like customizable labels, right? If a company offered that, is that something you would like, or would you like more?
yeah, I'd get a few of my cards done that way, and if I had some element of design on the label, that would be really interesting. Um, I don't know. I'm not the creative in this business relationship. I must admit, my wife Vicky is definitely the design and creative person, so she'd probably have a few more ideas than I would. But personally, I don't think I have anything to offer in that sense. I don't know what I want to see, but I know I want to see something. I'd want to see something different. That's like probably the world's worst customer answer ever, I think.
I feel like a lot of people are in the same position though. It's like, you want I want something new and flashy to do with my cards, but I can't think of what it is. And yeah, like you said, when someone does, it'll be really obvious. You'll be like, well, no, did no one think of this? We've been missing this for years, but until then, you just don't know.
All I know is obviously I prefer Beckett. It'd be silly of me not to.
Yeah,
But I'm a big customer of PSAs as well. But for me, Beckett are the only one that only out of the market that there are now. PSA were obviously the first comparing to other um, a lot of the other grading companies, but Beckett are the only ones that have a uniquely different slab compared to the rest. I know that they're all certainly PSA compared to all the UK ones are pretty much identical. Um, CGC have got quite a similar slab as well. You know what I mean? They're all there's no different. Whereas you've got a Beckett one, it's almost like a framed portrait, and because it's chunky, it's a bit bigger, and that's why I lean towards Beckett. Also, the um the chasing of a black label is obviously very appealing as well with Beckett. Um, but that's what I want. That's the sort of thing I want. I don't know what it is, but I think something can be done out there that will be uniquely different, and I'm really excited because it will happen. Somebody's probably squirreling away, thinking and designing right now, and it will blow our minds. And just really excited for that day.
yeah. I think it's the inherent thing that the Black Label has at Beckett is the kind of the chase of it, right? And that's what all collectors want, really, is they want, well, say all. I think most collectors want, like, they want to chase the best. So you want the best card in the set in the same way that you want the best label on your
Mm.
cards. That's You need to add some inherent like layer of collectability to it to to its add to its appeal. Um, Again, I'm not the creative one. Like, my girlfriend's much more creative than me. Like, I can just about make graphics for this podcast, and that's like the extent to which I can get to. But I did a podcast with her, and we ranked. Well, I say we. She basically chose the slab that she wanted, that she liked the most, based on its appearance, and
Hmm.
she said that Beckett was her favorite.
Oh,
So,
good.
and I think, like you said, it's just because it's the most different. Like, the rest are just all
Yeah,
quite similar.
it's just the label that's different in most of them. They've all got that frosted glass, kind of frosted look about them. They're all the same sort of size, same sort of thickness. Um, which is nice because if you wanted a collection with varied grading companies, then I guess Beckett would be the one that sticks out. You can't stack PSA cards on a Beckett slab neatly; they'll all fall down. So I guess in that sense, it's they're the odd ones out. But yeah, I think there will be something coming. I can't wait.
So, you say about the Black Label. Are you still
Mm.
searching for your first?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. It's insane. People don't seem to understand that it's a black label is a unicorn in in this world. We
You can
now
see it.
granted,
Sorry, I was gonna say, you can see it if you search it on eBay. There are maybe six or seven.
yeah, they do exist. I've heard of them. They do exist. But we haven't had one come through us yet. But that's not as big a um scare as it sounds offhand. Because bear in mind, the vast majority of the cards that we've submitted on behalf of our customers to Beckett are through the economy and the standard service, which have yet to be returned from the January submissions. But we have had probably about 200 odd cards returned to us through the express service. Out of those 200 cards, we've had about 10 tens, and none of them black labels. So just to give you, and what I was saying earlier, we're being sent mm, almost like pack fresh cards, as 90% of the cards we receive are sort of that sort of condition. So if that is anything to go by, that would be 5% of our cards that are getting a 10 out of all of them, which is insane. But that's what makes it so exciting. That I I I'm so excited for the day that we receive a batch of our submissions, and one of them, and one or two of them are a black label, and I will be so excited, not only for the fact that I'll be able to share a picture of it, but I'll be so happy for the person that I get to tell, or if they don't want to know, that I get to kind of be right there when they as kind of one of the first people they'll tell. You know what I mean? If everybody seems to message us back when they get their submissions returns, and one of them's a 10. immediately get a response back, and they're so happy, and I just can't wait to hear when to be there when one of our customers get a black label, because it's going to be so exciting, and I'll be insanely jealous, and as will a lot of our customers. But that day is it can't be too far away now.
I think that's the thing with black labels, though, right? It's like you can do everything right, and if the centering's off because it was manufactured not perfectly, then it's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
Like you said,
you
it's
can't see it. You can't see it either.
yeah.
We, it's microscopic in a lot of the details that they look that Beckett look for. So I think I've got a good eye for telling centering, and but yeah, I could never tell the difference between a 9.5 and a 10 in centering.
Have you? You don't have to say any specifics, but have you had any cards through that you like that you think would have a chance?
I never predict a black label. I I would be um I'd be a very silly man if I even tried. What I do as a little bit of a personal exercise, I will frequently write next to one of the to any of the cards that we receive that I believe genuinely is pristine. I will write pristine next to the cards details on our system. Um, and that's kind of just for me. We don't do pre-grading as in our bit is not as part of our business. And I'm trading off a little bit here, but as I've mentioned pre-grading, I'll just explain why we don't do it. It was a decision. It was a decision that we made when in the very early stages of starting this business and kind of working out what our offering was going to be. And I was on the fence. I really wanted to offer it, but I was torn by the fact that I couldn't legitimately call myself an absolute expert at predicting grades. I would just be every seasoned collector or grader um, in the community, and therefore I didn't really trust my instincts. And as well as that, the the time needed to dedicate towards offering pre-grading um, would is quite an undertaking. And we were deciding what's the trade-off going to be, and we set out to be the best at communication and transparency we could be for our customers. We wanted to be the ones that yeah every step of our processes you'd be notified and updated regularly, and we'll be on available on social media and on the phone most hours of the day. And we couldn't see a world where we could offer that big customer service piece alongside offering the pre-grading. So we decided at that point we weren't going to do it. And and yeah, that's a lot of people. That's probably the question we get asked most is do we offer pre-grading? And my general response is no, but we focus on on the comms, which doesn't really have the same impact. But um, yeah, it's that's why we don't have the pre-grading service. But going back to the point, so I write. I still want to kind of find out how accurate I am, just in case one day we do decide to open up pre-grading. So that's why in the background, when I'm processing cards, I'm writing down which ones I believe might get a 10, 9.5, or 9. I don't really go below that, just so that our system will eventually be able to churn out a report that tells me how accurate I was in 6 months' time.
How have you been doing so far? If you don't mind me asking.
Pretty, yeah, pretty good. I think the last time we did a review of it was, bear in mind, only about 200 cards. I think I was about 80% accurate,
It's pretty good.
which was good. I give myself a point 0.5 margin. So if for example, if I estimated a 9.5 and it got a 9, that would be a tick. So it's not it doesn't but that for me would be if I was going to set out now with Vicky and decide to do to offer the pre-grading service, that would 80% accuracy would be what I would feel would be good enough for the offering. Um, so that's yeah, but but I don't want anyone to get any false hope that we're gonna suddenly start offering pre-grading tomorrow. It's probably a long way off, if ever.
It's also a lot of responsibility pre-grading. I feel because when you get a pre-grade back from a company, I know you shouldn't think of it this way, but when you see a pre-grade, you're like, okay, well, it's probably going to get that then.
Hmm.
And it's like I know obviously when you when you look at a card, you have a lot more experience than most people looking at cards. So yours would be a lot more informed, but it's essentially it's just a person looking at your card, and
Yeah.
they might miss stuff, and it might be a bit off. And again, there is 80% is a pretty good success rate, to be fair. It's probably a lot better
But
than
it's
mine would
not.
be.
It's probably not a fair test of my ability, is because I, I've said this a few times now. The cards that we are receiving are all very high condition cards, good condition cards. So most of my estimates are probably anywhere between an 8 and a 10. Um, so it's that 0.5 margin is probably not as impressive, but but uh, but yeah, it was just something I decided to do anyway. At the when we started the business, just to for future planning, really.
I do it as well. Every time I submit a card, I always give it I've got a spreadsheet, and I always give it a pre-grade from me. It doesn't mean much, but it's always nice to know how accurate I am.
Hmm.
Um, and I get what you mean. Like the lower you get down, so if I'm pre-grading for PSA or whatever, if it's a 9-10 and it's basically perfect, that's quite easy. But as you get lower down, it gets more and more kind of subjective. And obviously, with Beckett having the 4 subgrades, it's even more difficult.
Yeah, can you imagine if people asked us to do a pre-grading service with subgrade
Yeah,
predictions as well? Then we'll be there. We might as well just open our own grading business at that point. But and also Beckett's algorithm is proprietary. They don't shout about it. They don't tell us. They don't give a definitive kind of reason of why a card would get. It's not an average. It's not, which bugs me about a couple of grading companies in the UK who've decided to do averages, because averages don't work when you look at subgrades. Because if you imagine you've got a card that's got 3 10s, and on edges, corner, and centering, and then surface there's a gash right down the middle, or just literally the deepest of scratches. If you take and therefore that card gets a 2. If you were to take an average, uh, just quick, what's that? That's 32.
but
That an average would be an 8, wouldn't it? But
yeah,
you'd imagine seeing a card graded an 8 with a big old scratch straight down the middle. Um, would that look right? Would you be happy with that?
I don't
So
I don't think so.
no,
No.
I know, and that's the whole reason why, in my opinion, averages don't work. And what Beckett does, and again, this isn't. I think the only thing that Beckett have announced before that is that their grading is there's certain rules. Certain elements are weighted more heavily than others, and there's also this unspoken rule, I believe, where a card will never achieve higher than 2 points above the lowest subgrade. So in that scenario I just gave you, where it was 3 10s and a 2, because those 3 10s were achieved, that card would receive a 3 overall, because the 2 could only go up a point 2.53. So those are the 2 steps on the grading scale, and I think that works a lot better than giving a card an 8, in that sort of very drastic, very kind of drastic situation, a scenario that I gave there. But that's why it works. And but other than that, I don't really. Nobody really knows the rules going on behind Beckett's grading, um, and it's that's I think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I guess the most common example of that you see is that um you have maybe like terrible corners, edges, and surface, but the centering's a 10. So
Hmm.
like it wouldn't make sense for you to add that average of the 10 in,
Exactly.
because it
Yeah.
just completely skew the grade upwards. If you get like a 1, a 2, a 3, and then a 10,
Yeah.
you're on like
You might be looking at.
a 4
Yeah.
overall
Exactly.
for a terrible card.
If you can't even see the centering because the surface is so bad, like exactly, it's those sort of that's why it doesn't work. And yeah, that's probably one thing I'd change if with some of the grading companies around, just so they understand. But they need to see those situations. It becomes very obvious in the scenario that I gave. But how often do you see that sort of card being submitted? No one would ever do it, unless it's a first edition Charizard, because those are worth grading in any condition, I guess.
I feel like a lot when you have like PSA, well, it's PSA 1, isn't it? You say if a card's in a bad condition, you say it's PSA 1,
Hmm.
because if you submit to PSA, they don't tell you. They don't detail why it's gotten the grade it's got. Um, and there does tend to be a higher premium on very low end PSA cards than other grading
Yeah, there.
companies.
Do you think that's more weighted, more because of the collectors out there that want the 1 to 10 graded cards? They want a base set Charizard in every grade from PSA.
I guess, yeah, I guess right, because I don't know. Do Beckett do half grades low down?
Yeah, yeah, you do.
So that would be almost impossible to get a
If you
a one to black label in Beckett.
I imagine though that'd be quite a sight.
I've seen people try for Beckett like 1 to 10, um and it just seems incredible to me that you'd even attempt it. But you
Yeah,
know,
it'd be easier by just buying them out. But yeah, the pop you'd have to choose a very popular card as well.
yeah, because if you look at like really low end cards, like by low end, I don't mean actually mean value, I mean like low condition in this case. If you look at low condition cards, like the half grades for PSA and Beckett are very low in population.
Mhm.
One of my favorite statistics is if you look at evolutions on the PSA registry, not a single card has been graded a 1.5.
Chase that. I'm gonna go out and chase that 1.5 now then.
Yeah, they've graded like
Top one.
30,000 cards and not a single one's a 1.5.
Wow, that's mad.
To be fair, for PSA low end like low score half grades are generally reserved exclusively for sports. They don't really bother with Pokemon, I don't think, from
Mm.
what I've seen.
Yeah, it's quite. I must admit, it's quite a rarity. It's so rare that it makes you believe that you wouldn't that you might think it doesn't exist with PSA, the 0.5 grades.
I think
Because
the lowest I've seen is a 6.5 for Pokemon. I've never seen a 5.5 or anything below that for half grades.
no, neither have I actually.
Maybe they just don't.
Interesting.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things we'll never know probably because they'll never say.
Mm. Yeah, they're very cloak and dagger about their grading because it is as I mean with Beckett I was saying they're very hush hush with how they like come to the final grade, but for the subgrades they can sort of make an PSA is quite much trickier, which I quite like actually about it, a little bit about it, kind of flipping between my arguments, but but I do like how clean a PSA grade it. You kind of know where you stand. It's going to be it's going to be a 8, 9, or 10. That's quite simple. Um, and there's no real messing about it. But I just don't know. I flip between the two on a daily basis. I I flip between the two of which one's doing the better thing, and I feel like I still always lean to Beckett first, more so than PSA.
I feel like a lot of people are leaning towards Beckett now for the grading scale because never never before like it's never been more important than now um to people always say buy the card not the grade, don't they? So like
Mm,
recently there was that PSA 10 Charizard that sold for like
I saw.
200,000 less than the last one because it was a really bad PSA 10. With Beckett you have those subgrades, so it's a lot easier to just like easily tell which one is better than the other one if it has better subgrades.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exactly.
it's very evident in I find myself more and more talking about sports these days. I don't actually collect it, I just it's just a good example. But like with sports, like a 0.5 subgrade can be the difference between like 50 grand on the value.
Mm.
And it's yeah, it's crazy. Sports is a whole different world.
Oh, it is, and there are some insane collectors out there, and I, I think I'm wrong to say. I think PSA may still carry them a little bit overall, but I think if you are a dedicated hardcore sports collector, I think that Beckett is generally your go-to um, for sports cards. Again, for that same reason, that 10 and a Black Label 10 is just well above. It's in another level, isn't it?
If I ever graded sports, I think the subgrades from Beckett would be the deciding factor for me because it's kind of funny because in Pokemon we always talk about centering, but like centering doesn't always affect the value that much, and off center and miscut cards are actually quite like people like them in Pokemon, but proportionally a lot less people like them in sports. Like having an OC grade on a sports card, a lot of people don't like that because it affects the way it looks and it doesn't look very nice.
No, I get that.
But yeah, like I said, sports is just it's just another beast entirely. Like it's so much bigger than Pokemon. As much as some people like to say that Pokemon is huge now, it's like sports is even bigger, and there's so much more money in sports. Like in Pokemon, we have maybe a handful of cards that are worth more than half a million pounds, maybe even like
Yeah,
less than that. There's hundreds and hundreds in sports that are worth more than that.
yeah, yeah. And I think the good thing about sports is sports cards are you have the whole game of trying to with all the rookie cards that are going to stay. So it's and with football as well. You happen to be collecting those cards that for players that are rookies at the time, and then 5 years from that point they become, as the Americans say, an MVP or literally a top tier class player. Then that card immediately starts becoming really valuable, and really like that about the sports cards. You kind of, yeah, if you're in sports, you can start spotting almost, you can these cards, and if you want to get the cards, there's that big money. It happens all the time. Um, Unfortunately, if a famous athlete passes away, expectedly again, those that you collect are become hugely valuable. I think I saw a Kobe Bryant card sell for I think it made over a mil, but I could be completely wrong there. But it was and that was insane. So I do like that part of sports card collecting. But I must admit, it is just like you. It's another world that I'm not a part of. I have a few sports cards lying around, um, but I can never say I'm a collector.
Yeah. Your audio cut out a little bit there. So
Oh, sorry.
it's fine. I got the gist. What you're saying.
You feel free to just cut that out.
I might do. Yeah. Um. But yeah. So I've got here on my list of questions. When you started running Black Label grading, uh, what's one challenge that you faced that most people probably just wouldn't think about or wouldn't appreciate how difficult it is?
um. Okay. Well, I wrote two answers in my preparation. Um, One of them was I think we have been quite vocal, so the majority might know. But with this Black Label grading, is a side business for Vicky and myself right now. Um, we both work full-time jobs, and we have a toddler as well. Um, so kind of point the demands of Black Label grading alongside the demands of our actual life, which was really tricky. I'm pleased we're in a really good place now. It's like with anything that you do, you do a few more times, you get much better, you get more efficient at it. But at the start, just to give you an example, the process of us processing cards that I submit has changed drastically since we opened our doors. It used to take us, I think it used to take us about, I'm trying to remember our metric, but I think it was about 2 to 3 minutes per card that we were for me to process. Um, and then through just kind of looking at how we do it and getting quicker, that's down to less than a minute. Um, and that's partly down to our database improves, and we just get more knowledgeable in the area, and we know which cards are which, and returning customers, it gives us a lot of time as well. um so it was just kind of, yeah, getting to grips with how we were going to run it with our day-to-day life. We got to a point where we can actually manage the volumes quite nicely in our day-to-day life. And we've actually, in the past, I don't know the exact figures, but we know we've got a lot of room in that as well. Before the amount of cards we receive becomes not problematic, as lack of a better word, but um, becomes too much for us to hand before it starts impacting our day. We've got quite a bit of room, which was quite nice to see that we, because of everything, all the measures we put in place, we can actually cope with quite significant growth. There is a tipping point. I'm not going to share when that is, but there is a tipping point where one of us is likely going to have to go full time for Black Label Grading, and that will be a hell of a milestone, and that'll be an amazing day um, for us to be able to say that we work full time for our own business. But we're a little bit we're way off yet, um, which is good. I think it just gives us time to keep improving. Um, the business just keep improving until such time that this is our only one and only job.
So we've been talking about like other people's submissions, but the question is what are you both collecting now, both yourself and Vicky?
Yeah, not Pokemon at the moment. If that might surprise you, I'm primarily a WotC collector, and in all honesty, I'm just kind of priced out of the market right now. I can't afford. I'm not one of the fortunate people that can afford the 5,000 plus cost of cards that I would like in my collection. So, Pokemon definitely has taken a back seat until either I'm rich enough or the prices drastically come down, which is a bit of a shame. But who knows? One day that may happen. But right now, I'm personally really into Flesh and Blood, which is fairly up and coming. I don't know if it's still up and coming. I think it's quite well known now. But I'm trying to get the master set for Arcane Rising and the Monarch set. The really cool thing about Flesh and Blood is the chaser cards. They're so rare. Um, just to give you an idea, there's a card called there's a card in each set which is the Fabled card. It's actually what it's called, and I think the stats are there's like 1 in 40 boxes, and I that's just yeah the odds of getting one are insane, and I just really like that about them. There's steps below less rare but equally hard to get cards below the Fabled cards called legendary cards, which are equally valuable and quite sought after. But other than that, I'm stepping into to DBS. My Vicky really loves Dragon Ball Super as well. She's all about the artwork and stuff. She thinks it's the best looking TCG around. Um, and so yeah, she's also really into trying to complete a couple of sets that we're looking at. Getting to the point where it's equally expensive though, to be into that set. So we have to be quick with the pre-orders if we're going to be able to complete some future sets. Um, and finally is Weiss Schwartz, and I'm not a collector at the moment of Weiss Schwartz because none of the anime sets that have come out so far have really appealed to me. But they've announced the Seven Deadly Sins set, which is coming out in I think a couple of months' time, and I pre-ordered a few of their boxes because I'm all about that particular anime. And I'm going to get every single card associated with it. So I'm really excited for that day when it comes. But no, Vicky unfortunately is not a big collector. She is getting into it more and more. She has her own collection of the amazing rare cards from the Vivid Voltage Pokemon set, which she adores, and we have submitted for grading. But yeah, nothing other than that. We're doing everything together at the moment.
Yeah, that's sounds good. Like yeah, I'm not really into the anime sets personally, but I've heard of like Vice Schwartz and um with the Flesh and Blood. Do you own any of the legendary and fabled cards so far?
I've opened uh how many boxes? I've opened 3 boxes, and I've had one. I was so lucky in my first box I did get the Fabled card. I was talking to a couple of Flesh and Blood collectors at the time, and they were livid when I told them that
Oh,
I'd pulled
I can
pulled,
imagine.
pulled it. Yeah. But oddly enough, I've only pulled one legendary card out of those 3 boxes, and no other fabled. So if you're after if you're after the pull rates that I know Pokemon aren't brilliant with the pull rates, but they're definitely much better than Flesh and Blood. Um, so if you think you can buy a box and get the best card, If you're very lucky, like I was, you will. But more often than not, it's very tricky to get the cards you need.
Yeah, I think it's one thing a lot of people say about Pokemon is that it lacks those like incredible chase cards. I'd say
Yeah,
like, and it does tend to be that the most popular sets like Hidden Fates, Charizard, like that's I think it's about 1 in 1,000 packs. Like that level of chase is a thing that a lot of people don't necessarily get in Pokemon these days. The last
yeah,
one was probably the Rainbow Pikachu from Vivid Voltage. Um,
yeah. But that didn't really have the same sort of impact, did it?
yeah, I I mean I could they add a new rarity to Pokemon? Well, I mean, they could obviously they could do whatever they want, but I'm not sure how well it would be. I guess the comparison would be Gold Stars, like from the old days, where it's like
Yeah,
one in
yeah, yeah.
one in every 2 boxes. But even that, it's only every 2 boxes, not 1 in every 40. So
No, no, that's 1,000. That's like 1,500 booster packs that you have to for Flesh and Blood. It's 1,500 booster packs that you have to open according to obviously that's it's all. You could be one of those people that opens 1,500 booster packs and still not pull the chase card, but you could be one of those annoying people that just picks up 2 booster packs and then that's it. You get the card you need. But yeah, I think you're totally right. I don't know how well it would go down. I can't imagine it would go down very well if Pokemon suddenly announced that there was gonna be one in 1,000 pack card. I think I can imagine the community uproar of saying they're just doing it for the money. They probably are, frankly. That's what it is, a business. Um, but I think that'd be hard to go down that route now when they've established themselves as kind of like one every booster box or so you might get the chase card.
yeah, Route 101, which is definitely not a rip off of Room 101 with a Pokemon theme. Um, but if there's one thing in collectibles that you could happily just not happily live without, not have be a problem, what would it be?
This was the hardest question because I wanted. There's quite a bit. There's everything has its. I think everything out there has the pro associated with it, with the exception of scammers. I mean, they can do one. Scalpers as well. Um, they can also do one, but that's probably quite obvious. Um, I'm just going to talk with something that about something that really really bugs me, and it's only bugged me since we started this business. Um, and that and that is uh, the existence of sellotape. And there, I
Oh God, I can imagine.
despise sellotape. Now, the as you know, a lot of collectors are super nervous about sending their prized possessions in the mail, and they do everything they can to protect them. And now we've had parcels received to us I, from regular customers, but we've had boxes that have been covered in duct tape. We've had I've had a those little lock boxes usually for like petty cash. we've had
Yeah,
we've had one single card submitted in a petty cash box and submitted in another box, submitted in another box wrapped in duct tape. But generally the overuse of sellotape across on cards, just because, and I'll be honest, it's a pain in the ass to actually get the cards out. But it's also really bloody dangerous, I think, for the cards themselves, because like they seal up the top of a top loader with sellotape, and then as you can imagine, we're insanely careful with how we open these up, especially when there's sellotape involved. But sometimes the card will slip out of the penny sleeve inside the top loader and and get awfully close to the sellotape. And if you peel the sellotape off, on a just takes one, but you can imagine that could do a little bit of damage to the edge of a card, and it's just why risk it? So my request to everybody listening is use masking tape if you have to use tape at all, um, because it doesn't stick. It doesn't leave any adhesive behind, and you save us about 20 minutes per package, really, of opening it.
yeah. So one takeaway: buy masking tape.
Buy masking tape. That's
Like,
it.
to be fair, I've had a few people send me things through like purchases with masking tape, and it just makes my whole life a lot easier.
you just feel so taken care of when they do that, especially
That's,
when they fold one end of it as well, so it's almost like a tab. Just
yeah.
take it straight off and you're done.
Whenever you sell things, people just think what the next person who opens it's going to have to do to get it out. I
Exactly.
don't want to be going at the top of a top loader with a scalpel trying to get the trying to get the card out.
If you want to make us happy, then send your cards in a appropriately sized box with your cards in ideally semi-rigids. Top loaders are fine. Semi-rigids we prefer because we don't actually have to have any we don't have to touch the card at all, which for those more nervous out there, that's probably a good thing. We're insanely careful, but if you limit, it just means our handling is limited. Which unless you're one of the people that will send it in one of the elite trainer box sleeves that you can get,
Yeah,
which we have to change out. We have to send them in clear sleeves. But again, that it doesn't bother us if we have to do that. But semi-rigids in a clear sleeve and then just wrapped in bubble wrap in a hard box. Just make sure it doesn't wobble in postage, and that's fine. That will make us very happy. But if you feel more comfortable in just packaging it with um all of the void fill packaging that you've received from Amazon for the last 6 weeks, then you go right ahead. We'll deal with it no matter how it comes.
I imagine your recycle bins must be very full at the end of each
Oh
week.
god, it's frequent trips to the dump. I'm
Ah,
afraid. It wouldn't last. It wouldn't even last with one full week of the packaging. I'm afraid.
and obviously there's been a slight shortage of like semi-rigid sleeves. Is there anyone that you'd recommend to buy with? Just
Uh, yes, I have. I kind of we we only use Grade Shield, and we've used quite a few in the market to kind of find out what we wanted, which ones were best for us. Um, but Grade Shield supply us with all of our semi-rigids, and their packaging is really good. I've used a few of the other semi-rigid companies, and um, the one thing that bugged me is you can get kind of condensation or bubbling on the inside, so they get quite sticky. You just want the cards to kind of slip in, and I didn't have any problems with Grade Shield. Um,
I have to say this is
so
not an official endorsement from
no,
me.
no,
Although
no, we're not paid. No, we're not paid or anything like that. We've I've spoken with David at Grade Shield for quite a while, but no, man, we're not endorsed by them or anything like that. It was literally we bought like I think we bought 5,000 packets of them the other a few weeks ago or months ago rather.
to be fair,
Um,
that is one hell of an endorsement.
yeah,
It's
I guess
it's not a paid endorsement, but you know.
no, no. I mean, we could have probably bought bought ourselves with the volumes that we need. We probably could have um, gone direct somewhere in China. But another thing that we always said that we'd do is we'd only ever work with companies in the UK. Um, we didn't want to go out to source any of our packaging or products or anything from China. Like the stand, I don't know if you've seen, but the stands that we've recently announced,
I have,
um,
yes.
they are they're made by they're made up by a company in the UK. We engaged with them. We actually bought their own stands that they did, and we inquired about if they do something bespoke for us, and they came up with this incredible design that we're really pleased with. And hopefully other people are pleased with. But all of our packaging is locally sourced as well. I don't know why it might not be important to everybody, but it was important for us to kind of keep everything as local as possible.
I have seen the stands on your Instagram, and they are very nice. I
Thank
will
you.
say.
Yes, that's a shout out to Stands for Slabs. They're a really cool company. I recommend anybody talk to them. But if you want one of our stands, you've got to come to us.
Yeah, that, to be fair, having a company called Stands for Slabs is a it's a very good name considering that's
Yeah,
exactly what they do.
yeah. They can't really. They've backed themselves into a corner a little bit, haven't they? They can't. They can't really stretch out and do anything else other than the stands.
We were we were having this. I was having this conversation with Ash from Car Bazaar, and he was saying that like wasn't sure whether to call his company because he's like, I don't want to call it something Pokemon related. I don't want to call it something like, if I call it card related, I can't branch out. And it's eventually he was just like, you know what, I'm just going to call it whatever I want, and we can worry about that later.
I was so happy when the day I came up with the name of our business, but we're in the exact same boat. Not that we ever would, but we can't work with anybody other than Beckett because of our name.
Yeah,
But I was the day I came, the day I kind of coined that name to Vicky was a big day for me. It was a big win. I was really pleased with it.
yeah, I can imagine. Um, but yeah, I think it's probably a good place to end for the
Cool.
podcast. Um,
Well, thank you very much for having me.
yeah, thanks for coming on. If anyone isn't sure where they can find you, do you want to tell them your social media and your website and that kind of thing?
Sure. Yeah, it's quite easy. We're blacklabelgrading.com, and you can also get us on Instagram at blacklabelgrading. And that we are on Facebook as well, but Instagram is preferred just because you'll get a much quicker response. And as I've alluded to, I'm always available if you have any questions, I'll always get back to you pretty much instantly.
I can vouch it is very it's very speedy, your responses. But again, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
It's been nice chatting, and
Yeah, really good fun.
I will I'll be back next week with another guest most likely. Um, so I will see all of you lovely people later. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.